Okay, folks, I'm making this video because I realized today that I never really did a video just giving my impression of Isom number one overall in terms of the story. I mean, yeah, I nitpicked it to death in terms of the quality, and in terms of the quality, I give it a thumbs down because there's just way too many errors, unforced errors in the book to tell somebody that this is worth your $35. I mean, a book that had the same story that Isom has, but didn't have all of the unforced errors that the book was just absolutely laden with, that might have been worth the money. But as it is, was not. But at the same time, I never did a video on how good was the story, how good was the potential, what do I see, where do I see it going from here. And I think if you look at my videos overall, if you look at all, God, I don't know how many videos I actually made on that thing, but if you look at the course of my videos, you'll see that there is a point at which I get particularly positive. And it's the point where you've got Yaira and the Alpha Core involved to some degree. And especially once Avery gets into the mix with those two. And what's funny is I was watching a live stream today from Eric July, and he was reading off fan mail, and he said a fan wrote to him, the way you had Isom flying into Yaira was sweet. How'd you come up with that? And part of his response was, it felt like the comic book thing to do. I wanted to do it in a way that actually made sense. It's comic books, there's going to be some random shit that happens. It was like, how can I do this that will be as organic and realistic as possible? Now, I had to laugh a little at that because at once he's aware that the comic book randomness of it totally belies any notion of this being an organic or realistic thing. I mean, think about it. You've got what happens in the book is that you've got a fight going on over here and a fight going on over here, and these two characters who are not fighting each other but are involved in these separate fights get thrown into each other at random, completely at random. And remember, human bodies are not that large. So for somebody to just chuck one person in one direction and then for somebody else to just randomly chuck that person in the other direction, the probability that those two are going to hit each other, that they're going to be both at the same height and the same on the x-axis, it's practically impossible. But it happens. But at the same time, it's so funny when it happens that it's forgivable. Because when I see that, it's like, oh, I see how all this is being drawn together now. And then just briefly later, when Yaira takes Avery and throws him into a taxi, and then all of a sudden the Alpha Core shows up, and I'm like, oh my God, now the Alpha Core and Avery are going to mix it up. And I think that was the moment where I thought to myself, oh, this book is getting good. This book is really getting good, because now we've got this whole cacophony of characters, this whole collection here, and they're all starting to mix it up, and now you're starting to wonder, okay, where is this going to go? This is spiraling completely out of control, and poor Avery. The best part about it was thinking, now I see why he didn't want to go back to the city, because going back to the city means getting involved in all of this stupid superhero madness, with people fighting each other and stuff, and now he's drawn into the middle of it, and it's just going to be one big expanding cluster from here. That was my impression at that point in time. And then, of course, you have the famous ad break, and then you go to a different scene where you kind of break the momentum there. And then when you come back to the book and you're expecting, okay, now we're going to see Avery mixing up with the Alpha Core, it's crickets. No, it doesn't happen. You wind up in the hospital, and Avery's been taken to the hospital by Alpha Core, and it's like, what the hell? I mean, seriously, I have not seen momentum in a comic book broken so badly since the end of Spawn number 2. Back in, I guess that was 1995, 1992, somewhere around there. 1995 maybe, but Todd McFarlane's Spawn was zooming forward at breakneck pace, and just blowing people's minds left and right, blowing my mind left and right. And finally, at the end of Spawn number 2, you get to this scene where the Violator transforms into his demonic form behind Spawn's back, and you know there's going to be this big throwdown, and then you get to Spawn number 3, you open up the first page, and it's like Spawn saying, well, where'd the little guy go? And it's like, oh, what? You're not going to have the fight? And it was just like momentum lost and never regained. And that was like what happened with Isom. You had momentum lost and never regained from that point forward. So I really wanted to like Isom going in for those first 30 pages, because in those first 30 pages, you had this building momentum where you had Avery's problems, you had Yaira's problems. All of a sudden they collide. Now here's Avery, Yaira, and Alpha Core all together, and then gone. And it's almost like, why did we even have the Yaira and Alpha Core storyline at that point? So, seriously, I mean, you practically could have left everything to do with Yaira and Alpha Core out of the book and just focused on Avery and Santuan, and maybe Santuan put the beat down on Avery, and, so badly they put him in the hospital, and then Avery comes back and, triumphs and whatnot. So, it was all just kind of like, yeah, let's go ahead and throw these heroes in there. I liked it more when it seemed to be about Avery wanting to be away from the chaos of the city, and the fight mixing with Yaira and the Alpha Core was showing just what a chaotic place the city actually was. And gave us a reason to say, oh yeah, if I were Avery, I would not want to be in that freaking city either. So that was where I was hoping it would go. The other thing I wanted to mention after watching the live stream with Eric July is that I don't know if he realizes he's doing this or not, or if he really is doing this or not. Because it's hard when he gets complaining about his critics, and he complains a lot about his critics. And I don't know if I'm one of the critics he's complaining about or not, because for all I know, he's never heard of me, he's never seen any of my videos, he doesn't know me from Adam, which is fine. I'm not pretending I'm any kind of major player on the stage or anything like that. But oh my God, when he hears criticism from people, and he says there's constructive criticism and there's destructive criticism, and it's right to call out the destructive criticism. If there's criticism that people have misinterpreted a scene, then you should say, well, you misinterpreted that scene. You need to understand that this and this and this. But you also need to understand that it may be your fault they didn't understand the scene. And that should be, there should always be some element of constructive criticism that you take away from the destructive criticism. And I'm not seeing that in anything Eric July has said so far. In fact, I don't think I've seen him, and I'm not like as huge a fan in terms of trying to watch his live streams. And one of the things he does is once he's done with his live stream, he turns it to members only, so I can't go back and watch what he's done before. I've never seen him in any of the times I've seen anything about criticism of Isom. I've never seen him take constructive criticism. So for as much as he says there's constructive criticism and there's destructive criticism, it would be nice to see him take some constructive criticism, because all I've seen him do so far is say, well, I made $3.7 million and all you people criticizing me are broke, which says absolutely nothing about the quality of the book. Because if you look at what he's doing, he went and he built himself a fan base, and he's got a fan base, and then he said, pay me money and I'll send you a comic. Okay, great. That says nothing about the quality of the comic. Those people paid their money sight unseen. They saw maybe a few pictures here. They saw maybe a little bit of, I don't think they saw any dialogue. I didn't see any dialogue until after the book was distributed. So what does $3.7 million have anything to do with the quality? There are people who will go to see a movie and pay millions of dollars to see a movie just because so and so made it. Maybe it's associated with a particular director. Maybe it's associated with a particular actor. Why is it that they paid Tom Cruise so many millions of dollars to star in their picture? It's because they know that if you put Tom Cruise in the movie, people will come to see it even if the movie is crap. I went to see The Mummy. The Mummy was crap. Tom Cruise was in it. That didn't help. Now imagine that Tom Cruise was in the movie and people went to go see it and it was a good movie on top of that. That's the way I look at Isom. Imagine you took all of the constructive criticism that is coming your way from people like me and saying, hey, I can actually make my comic book better. I don't have to sacrifice anything of the book because I'm not being asked to. I can still write the book my way. I never said anything like, well, you should have put Isom's origin in the book. I didn't care about that. But I do say things like, if you're going to have a scene in an office, then the office should make sense. Should be laid out in a way that makes sense. If you're going to have characters in a scene, you need to mention the characters' names. We don't even know what Darren's last name is. Not from Isom number 1. These are things that are easily fixed. But if you are so full of yourself with the idea that I made $3.7 million and I don't need to listen to anybody, well, then you're just going to put out another crap product in about 3 or 4 months. And I personally don't want to pay $35 for another crap product. I would like to see something that at least rises to the level of quality that I'm used to, that I would be satisfied with. And I'd like to see that in your readers' hands as well. So the fact that somebody makes money off of something is not necessarily tied to quality. Like, oh, but the customer likes it. It's like, sure, the customer likes it. Wouldn't you like to give the customer a better product while you're at it? Not different. I'm talking about better. Same product, only better. It'd be like if you sent out a candy bar and your customers love the candy bar, but on the candy bar, there's like 5 or 6 words misspelled on the candy bar wrapper. Now, candy bar tastes the same, but people are going to look at that and say, well, you've got pretty poor quality control on that candy bar if, you can't even get the words right on the candy bar wrapper. Like, fix the wrapper. So, yeah, I mean, that's basically what I'm saying is you can do better. And there are people who are trying to do better, and don't lose the fact that the people who come to you and they say, oh, well, I think this didn't make sense to me, are coming to you saying your book didn't communicate to me everything I needed to know. Understand that when people complain to you and you're saying, well, you should have known better, you should have known this is what is happening. No, you should have told them this is what is happening. And I got fooled too, by the way. I mean, there's a video in which I'm like, well, why is it that when Isom leaps off the wall and hits Sanchuan and they go all the way across the street and they hit this other wall where there's pedestrians and cars around, why is it that, how did they get all the way across the street without tumbling to the ground first? And you'd probably come back at me and say something like, well, you idiot, they didn't go all the way across the street. What happened was they went through this particular wall and came out on the other side of the wall, which was by the street, which is true. But why didn't you draw that in such a way that me, a 40-year veteran of reading comics, could understand that? I had to be told by one of my YouTube subscribers that that's what's happened. That shouldn't have been the case. I should have known from looking at the page that's what happened. And that's the importance of having somebody, whether it's me or whether it's somebody else, looking at your stuff and saying, I don't know if the reader's going to understand what's going on here because I've been reading comics for 40 years and I don't. So, anyway, my services are available. I think I'm even local to you. So, if you want to send a preview copy of Isom number 2 my way, get my criticisms out of the way beforehand so that you can go back and fix them, I'm here. I'm here. Just drop me a line. Drop me a line on Twitter. Anybody else out there, you got a comic book, crowdfunded comic book, or a campaign comic, pre-order campaign, anything like that, and you're like, I really need somebody to read this over? Drop me a line. I'm here on YouTube. I'm on Twitter. Send me a DM on Twitter. That's the best way to get a hold of me. But my God, I mean, don't just think, $3.7 million, and that's, you've already made it. You've already reached the mountaintop. No. You're a beginner, and it shows. You just happen to have a very loyal fan base with very open wallets. I'm Mike Partika. Thanks for watching. Please do subscribe if you haven't already, and I will talk to you later.